Welcome to Fantasia, home of the Melodious. My name's Azallea, and today gonna be bringing you guys another playtesting video. Now this time we are gonna be using my Dark Lunalight deck. So without any further ado, let's just jump right into this. So starting off, we're of course gonna go ahead and draw our 5 cards. Now let's take a quick look at what they are. We have a copy of Lunalight Tiger, Summoner Monk, Perfume, Soul Charge, and Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. Now this hand is absolutely fantastic because Summoner Monk is the key to most of our combos. So of course the first thing I'm going to do is normal summon my Summoner Monk, and he has a manual effect that activates, which puts him into defense position. Now I'm going to activate his effect to discard a spell card, in which case I'm going to discard Lunalight Perfume. Unfortunately, this is not polymerization, and if it was, then this would be more optimal. But Perfume in the graveyard is definitely fine. So I'm going to use Summoner Monk's effect and special summon Armageddon Knight out from my deck, and then using Armageddon Knight's effect, I'm going to send a copy of Lunalight Kaleidochick from my deck to the graveyard. This is very important because you need that Kaleidochick in your graveyard for your Lunalight Tiger to bring back. Now, even though Lunalight Tiger brings back Kaleidochick with her effects negated, Kaleidochick's effect to send a Lunalight monster from the deck or extra deck to the graveyard is a cost, so you can still send any Lunalight monster that you want. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and send a copy of Crimson Fox for that targeting protection for my Lunalight monsters that I might summon in the future. So now I'm going to go ahead and shuffle my deck and cut it. This isn't very necessary at this stage, but it will be in just a few moments. So now I'm going to use all 3 of my monsters on the field to go ahead and conduct a Link Summon. And the monster I'm going to Link Summon is going to be Curious, the Lightsworn Dominion. And Curious requires 3 monsters with the same attribute, but different types, in which case all of my monsters were of Dark attribute, and I had 3 different types in the form of Spellcaster, Warrior, and Beast Warrior. When Curious is Link summoned, you can go ahead and send any card from your deck to the graveyard, in which this case I'm going to go ahead and send 1 copy of Blackwing Zephyros the Elite. Zephyros in the graveyard is a fantastic monster to send, but if you don't have Zephyros as an option, maybe you drew into it, or he's already in your graveyard from previous turns, you can go ahead and send a copy of Lunalight Perfume as well. Now, Curious's effect activates when you send any card from your deck to the graveyard. Curious goes ahead and sends the top 3 cards from your deck to the graveyard. In this case, we didn't get very lucky and we milled 2 copies of Tenki and 1 copy of Lunalight Tiger, but it really doesn't matter. If you get lucky, you'll probably hit something like Perfume and a few Lunalight monsters, but we can still go ahead and establish a pretty strong field. Zephyros can activate his effect, bouncing the Lunalight Tiger in my Pendulum Scale back to my hand and special summoning itself out from the graveyard, dealing 400 damage to me. Now I can reactivate my Lunalight Tiger in the Pendulum Scale and use her effect to bring back that Lunalight Kaleidochick from my graveyard. Now Lunalight Kaleidochick, while it's on the field, I can go ahead and use its effect yet again to send any Lunalight monster I want from my deck to the graveyard, and in this case, I'm going to send a copy of Lunalight Wolf. Sending a copy of Lunalight Wolf or a copy of Lunalight White Rabbit are both very strong plays. White Rabbit would be better if we had something like Polymerization to help follow up with on a subsequent turn. The reason why I send either of these 2 cards is because when Curious leaves the field by your opponent's card effect, it doesn't even have to be sent to the graveyard. You can add any card from your graveyard back to your hand, which is very, very strong. You can add back Wolf for an instant Miracle Fusion-esque fusion summon play, or you can add back your Lunalight White Rabbit, in which case you can normal summon and bring things back, bounce back row, and go for fusion plays. Now, in this opening hand, we did get very lucky because we got a copy of Soul Charge, so activating Soul Charge on my first turn is definitely very good for, of course, its value. You don't have a battle phase that you can lose anyway. So I'm going to choose to summon Summoner Monk and my Armageddon Knight out from the graveyard, and I'm going for a more modest, more realistic play with this Soul Charge instead of just summoning everything back from my graveyard. This is really all you're going to need, especially because we have very limited options in our extra deck in terms of additional Link monsters for Link markers, and we don't really need any more than this because we already established a copy of Evil Swarm Nightmare on our side of the field, which is very powerful. Okay, so summoning the Armageddon Knight with the Soul Charge back to our side of the field, we get to send a copy of Lunalight Blue Cat from our deck to the graveyard. Of course, you can also send something like Lunalight White Rabbit as well, if you so desire. Now here you're opening up yourself to another rank 4 play, and we could have gone for something like Tornado Dragon if you know your opponent plays spell and trap cards, or in this case a more generic, more all-inclusive monster would be Abyss Dweller. And we also end our turn with a copy of Ghost Ogre in our hand, so we have a ton of disruption on our side of the field, and that is a very powerful board at the cost of 2,400 total life points. Now for our second opening hand, it looks like we opened with Ash Blossom, Ghost Ogre, Lunalight Black Sheep, Lunalight Tiger, and Summoner Monk, so this is a perfect opportunity for me to showcase what would happen if we have Summoner Monk along with a copy of Polymerization. So I'm going to start off by normal summoning my Summoner Monk and putting him into defense position. Then using my Lunalight Black Sheep that's in my hand, I can go ahead and search for that copy of Polymerization that I've been referring to. Summoner Monk can now discard this copy of Polymerization to go ahead and summon out my Armageddon Knight from my deck. This is going to be a very similar combo to the one that I did in the previous example. The only difference is that Armageddon Knight, when it's summoned out, is going to send that Kaleido Chick from my deck to the graveyard, and now Kaleido Chick can activate her effect in the graveyard to add back that Polymerization from the graveyard back to your hand. And this extra copy of Polymerization is very important because it can potentially open up a lot of different options for you. Not only can you now fusion summon for something like Starving Venom Fusion Dragon with your Summoner Monk and Armageddon Knight if you're going second and you just really need the beat stick on your side of the field, but it also helps you with your subsequent turns and follow-up plays because now White Rabbit can get a lot more value than it originally could. So scaling our Lunalight Tiger in the Pendulum scale, we're going to special summon back that Lunalight Kaleido Chick from our graveyard to our side of the field, and then activating Lunalight Kaleido Chick's effect, we can go ahead and send a copy of Lunalight Crimson Fox from my deck to the graveyard, of course, for that targeting protection. Now the same play as our previous example, we're going to go ahead and link summon using all 3 of our monsters on our side of the field to go for a Curious the Lightsworn Dominion using all of the monsters with same types but different attributes. Now when Curious is link summoned, we can go ahead and send any card from our deck to the graveyard, and in this case we're just going to go ahead and send a copy of Zephyros because he's not in circulation yet. This guarantees that we're going to have a rank 4 monster because Zephyros is there, and then we also can bounce back that Lunalight Tiger that's currently in our Pendulum scale. This is the most basic combo in this deck, but it's also very effective. Now because Curious has sent a card from the deck to the graveyard, we have to send the top 3 cards from our deck to the graveyard. Unfortunately, we hit a Lunalight Tiger, Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, and Pot of Desires, but luckily we do not need any of those cards because we've already opened up with our combo pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and use my Zephyros in the graveyard, bouncing back my Lunalight Tiger back to my hand, and special summoning him to my side of the field, taking 400 damage in the process. Next, I'm going to go ahead and activate my Lunalight Tiger in the Pendulum scale, and using its effect, I'm going to special summon back my Lunalight Kaleido Chick from my graveyard to my side of the field. Now, don't forget to go ahead and use your Kaleido Chick's effect before you go into the overlay. Kaleido Chick can go ahead and tutor out a variety of different monsters. In this case, we have White Rabbit and Wolf side by side, so it's perfect for me to go ahead and just remind you that you have options available to you depending on your opponent and what decks they are playing. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and send a copy of Lunalight Wolf from my deck to the graveyard, and then I'm going to overlay my Kaleido Chick and my Zephyros, and I'm going to make my Evil Swarm Nightmare. So Evil Swarm Nightmare is the card that I typically default to, but of course you can change this depending on what decks your opponents are playing. Evil Swarm Nightmare flips monsters face down and can be used more than once per turn, so it's very, very strong. Now, I also had a copy of Ghost Ogre and Ash Blossom in my hand, as well as a copy of Polymerization for my next turn, so I basically have 4 disruptions for my opponent, keeping in mind that Nightmare can activate twice in a single turn if needed. Okay, so now looking at my third opening hand, I'm going to go ahead and draw 5 cards. We have Call by the Grave, Ghost Ogre, Lunalight Tiger, Lunalight Black Sheep, and Armageddon Knight. So this is an opening hand that does not have Summoner Monk, but instead we actually drew into a copy of Armageddon Knight, which is not really the greatest thing, but it's also not the worst thing ever. So he's a card that I cut from my previous ratios of 2 copies down to 1. I also used to run Reinforcements of the Army because he was a fantastic opening play, but now that he's at 1, you typically want him in the deck so that you can summon him off of something like Summoner Monk. But even if you draw into him, Summoner Monk still has other targets, such as Lunalight Kaleido, for instance, so you still have options open to you. So very similar to what we did last time, we're going to go ahead and search with the Lunalight Black Sheep, but instead of searching for a copy of Polymization, we're searching for a copy of Fusion Substitute, and I'll explain why once we get there. So the next thing that I'm going to do is scale my Lunalight Tiger and special summon my Lunalight Black Sheep back from the graveyard. That's the reason why I activated my Lunalight Black Sheep, is so I can get her into the graveyard for her to be revived. Now I'm going to go ahead and activate my Zephyros in the graveyard, bouncing back my Lunalight Tiger in the Pendulum Scale, inflicting 400 damage to me as he becomes special summoned to my side of the field. Now using my 3 monsters on the field, I have 3 different types. I have a Warrior, Winged Beast, and Beast Warrior, so I can still go ahead and summon Curious, the Lightsworn Dominion, from my extra deck. This is a really neat way to cheat out a Curious when you don't have your Summoner Monk. You can always use Zephyros as one of the materials if you have Armageddon Knight, or just a way to get him from your deck or your hand into the graveyard. So because we already tutored out Zephyros from our deck earlier with the Armageddon Knight, now we're going to use Curious to go ahead and send Lunalight Perfume from my deck to the graveyard. And because the card was sent from my deck to the graveyard, I have to mill the top 3 cards of my deck. In this case, we got pretty lucky and hit a copy of Lunalight Perfume, but we also lost a copy of Tenki and Monster Reborn, but that really doesn't matter, again, because we already have our combos going. So the next thing I'm going to do is banish a copy of Lunalight Perfume from my graveyard, and now I have to discard a card from my hand, and conveniently we have that Fusion Substitute that we searched out earlier with the Black Sheep. And that's the reason why I used Fusion Substitute instead of something like Polymization, because Fusion Substitute also has uses in the graveyard. So using that Lunalight Perfume, I'm going to go ahead and search for a copy of Lunalight Wolf, because this allows me to go for some fusion plays and potentially put some extra monsters on board, especially if I'm going second. Now luckily I did have that second copy of Lunalight Perfume in my hand, and I'm going to go ahead and discard my Call by the Grave in order to go for a search. Now the reason why I'm going for Call by the Grave is because at this point, if your opponent had a hand trap like Ghost Ogre, like Drone Lockbird, or Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, they would have used it by now. And your Call by the Grave is definitely less useful than all your other cards in your hand, so that's why I decided to go ahead and discard that for now. Now scaling the Lunalight Tiger that I bounced back earlier and the Lunalight Wolf that I just searched out recently, I'm going to go ahead and Pendulum Summon my Lunalight Kaleido that I searched out with my second Perfume. Now using Kaleido's effect, I'm going to go ahead and send a copy of Lunalight Crimson Fox from my deck to the graveyard. Now I have access to Lunalight Tiger's effect yet again to special summon a level 4 monster back from my graveyard so I can go for an XYZ play. So bringing back that Crimson Fox, and I can now overlay it with my Kaleido and go for something like Evil Swarm Nightmare again. This all depends on what deck you're going up against, but Nightmare is really good because it can help prevent your opponent from link summoning because it puts their monsters face down. So now, if I really wanted to, I can activate Lunalight Wolf in the Pendulum Scale and go for a fusion play if I really needed to, but that's not very necessary. I also end the turn with a hand trap in hand, so I am very safe on my next turn, and this is just one of the few ways that you can easily cheat out a Curious, even if you don't open up with a Summoner Monk. But anyway guys, that's going to be it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching, I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed it, or found it helpful, please leave a like, subscribe for more Lunalight content, and leave a comment down below letting me know what I can do to improve. And until next time, take care.